pain is multifactorial. It is not just due to one imbalance. It is not just due to one posture. Welcome back to another episode from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm Doc Jen.
And I'm Dr. Dom.
Today we're talking about imbalances. What do you do about all the imbalances that you feel within your body? Let's discuss it. Now, before we break down what we really think and what we will guide you into on addressing the imbalances within your body, I do want to just highlight the fact that we have so many more videos beyond just this. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because that's where you're going to hear not only information like on these podcasts, but you also get direct exercises and things that can really impact what you're feeling and moving within your body. So comment below if you have any questions, if you need more guidance, but also don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on future videos that come out to help you.
So how do I solve all of my imbalances? Or is that even important? Or why do we have imbalances? Should I have perfect symmetry?
Should I always be able to get rid of my imbalances? This is a big loaded question. What is perfect balance? What are we looking out for with imbalances, and what should we really be doing about them?
Yeah, and I think that so many people like to take these imbalances or say, oh, I'm just so tight at my chest and that's why I have neck pain, or my glutes don't activate and that's why I'm having such bad back pain. And we also have providers who like to perpetuate that type of messaging by saying oh, you just need to activate your right glute because then it will fix everything.
Yes.
And is that really the case, or is there a bigger picture that we need to look at here?
I think that's the most important thing we need to talk about here as well when we're talking about imbalances, is that pain is multifactorial. It is not just due to one imbalance. It is not just due to one posture. It is not just are we getting enough sleep? And we've talked about this on several podcasts, but I think it's important to continue to reiterate, how much are you fueling and taking care of your body as a whole? Because if our body is running on a battery that is not working well, then our nerves are going to be firing a lot more. We're going to have a lot more sensitivity happening, and our brain's going to be on alert for any little thing that it might detect or feel, which means I could have the potential of having a worse painful experience because I'm not sleeping well, because I'm not hydrating, because I'm not putting good nutrients in my body, because I'm not moving enough on a day-to-day basis, whether that's just walking or getting out of our chair. We cannot just boil it down to an imbalance is causing your pain. How do we create perfect balance within our body? How do we get rid of these imbalances? We have to then say, well, are we perfectly balanced in the first place? Yeah. Are we balanced when we come out of the womb, right? Or do we have these natural perfect symmetry within our body? And the reality is, no, we don't. Our body functions physiologically, side to side differently. Our anatomy inside is a lot different, where we have a huge liver on the right side that is going to put different pressures on our diaphragm as we breathe, which is going to put different pressures on what our rib cage is then responding, which is going to then put different pressures on tightnesses we might feel side to side. So again, if we're so asymmetrical on the inside and just how our body's naturally, physiologically moving, why do we expect to put a perfect symmetry on the outside?
Most of us have a dominant side, and we're writing with one hand the whole time. Most of us, even though we might not realize it, start going upstairs with a certain foot every time, and you don't even think about it. So you're always leading with one foot because we tend to have a dominant leg that we just naturally, our brain and the way it processes likes to lead with that leg. So every time there's a single step, or every time you're stepping up on a stool or going upstairs, you're likely using one side slightly more than the other. We likely cross our legs over one over the other more often. So again, if we are doing this over the course of decades, and if we sit in class or at work often with our legs crossed, or using the mouse with just our right arm the whole time, we're going to be developing imbalances just because of that chronic habitual pattern of our life. The typical person who might be working in the office and might be saying, I just am so tight in my chest and that's why I have my neck and my back pain. Is that tight chest solely responsible for the neck and back pain? No. Does it potentially contribute? Possibly. To what extent? I don't know. Does the fact that they are sitting the majority of the time 8 hours a day, or watching and looking at emails and a screen that are stressful for the most part because it's work and it's duties and it's things that you need to do and get done, and that you're leaning forward and maybe not breathing effectively, maybe breathing mostly out of your mouth with your head forward and breathing into the upper chest, do all those things individually cause or result in the neck pain you have? Probably not. Do they all contribute to the picture? Absolutely. How do we address these imbalances? And is it important that we do? How would you recommend somebody starting to approach this in their own life?
I mean, here's the reality. You go to a physical therapist, they're going to look at the things that you can control, which are going to be imbalances. They are going to look at differences side to side. What is not moving versus what is moving pretty well? How can we get the thing that's not moving as well to move well? Because we can't control how much you sleep, how much you're eating, how much you're drinking, your stressors in life. We can't control those other factors. The only thing we can control is helping you to improve your movement. We do still look at these imbalances. It's not something that we're now taking off and saying, it doesn't matter, right? But we're also saying it might not change. We might still have imbalances, especially if you have something like scoliosis. You might still have imbalances in the body, and that's not bad, but we can't also say that that's for sure causing your pain.
The scoliosis might not go away, but you might not have back pain 6 months from now.
Exactly. So what if we just started to work on, okay, if we're seeing a little bit more rotation this way, but we're lacking rotation in the other direction, what if we just started working rotation the other direction? What if we made it a little bit more active rather than passive? What if we put some strength on it, or saw where we're feeling a little bit weaker and started to address those weaknesses a little bit? Might that change what you feel for the imbalance? Potentially. But overall, as long as we're functioning and feeling better, that's what's most important.
To say, like, start zooming out and looking at all of those habitual behaviors in life, and how can we start to just crack into making small adjustments in many of them?
Even like small things that I can think of, if you work from home, if you were to take like a stretchy resistance band, kind of tie it around like the low rib cage, or even just like a little higher on the rib cage, we want to just get that rib cage expanding out to the sides, right? We just don't want our chest to be doing all of the breathing. We don't want to elevate the shoulders. We want to expand the rib cage. So if we just lightly kind of tied that around for like 30 minutes throughout the day and saw, as I'm working at my computer, what am I noticing? Can I put pressure into that band as I'm breathing? Or maybe if I don't have to be on a Zoom call, if I don't have to talk, I just put a piece of tape vertically over my mouth and kind of remind my brain to keep my mouth shut. And so then I have to use my nose as I breathe. You know, there's little things that we can do. Even if you got to be in the office, you come home, if you're doing dishes or watching TV, you're going to put a piece of tape over your mouth. Oh, maybe then you can't talk to your spouse or your kids for a minute. But
and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe put one over their mouth too.
Oh, God. No, but we're just saying these small little things can start to create different habits throughout the day. You know, noticing if you're putting pressure on one side, if you're leaning on the couch always on one side, maybe you lean the other side. If you're sitting at your desk for hours on end, maybe you're having reminders that pop up every 30 minutes to an hour to remind you, get up, move your body,
lift your arms over your head, arch your back.
And so coming to, you know, our general awarenesses throughout the day, so incredibly huge. And then we want to look at, okay, let's continue to gain awareness of my entire body as a whole. How am I activating through my hips? Do I have this awareness of my breath to my pelvic floor? Can I feel my glutes if I change my position of my body in a little bit different of a movement? It takes a constant exploration of learning your body. You don't have to be a movement expert, but you just get to continue to move a little bit every day and use resources that help, like Jen.health, to help you to learn and understand your body in those different ways.
I mean, doing the core plan and or full body mobility plan on Jen.health in those 60 days, if you just did them back to back, I can't imagine the amount that you would learn about the different restrictions you might actually have, the core coordination that you may have been lacking or understanding slightly differently, and how much you would learn about your body over those 60 days would be incredible, because we haven't, like we've been saying, we don't want to discount these physical restrictions that we feel at certain joints or in certain areas. They are a thing, and they're a thing that play into the picture of why we might be having pains, but they're not the only thing.
Right. I do have scoliosis in my body, and I do notice naturally, especially when I'm more stressed. And I will highlight this, and I've said this before on podcasts. I know when I'm more stressed because my right shoulder blade will talk to me. a lot. And of course I could do things like sometimes I do get to the point where I'm just like, I'm so tired, I'm so stressed. Can you just massage out my shoulder blade? Because I want that immediate relief. I want that immediate gratification.
By the way, you were on a Jen.health live and you said that you were getting neck pain and I only worked on you twice.
You did.
That was total BS. It was at least BS. Okay, I'm trying to count in my head, maybe 4?
No.
But maybe just 3. It was definitely more than 2.
No, it's just because I had to get your butt out of your position
definitely more
to
than
work
twice.
on me.
She's just like, he only worked on me twice for like a minute.
I did not say that.
No, you didn't say that part, but
anyways, yes, I will. I am human and I want those immediate gratifications sometimes.
Hey, manual therapy feels great.
It feels great. Touch is a huge thing for pain, okay? That's why we're not against manual treatment. However, I also know, okay, I'm probably not sleeping a lot. I'm increasing my stress levels for sure. And am I actually doing the things that I instruct on a regular basis? So when I'm actually going through a plan right now, as we're recording this, I'm almost done with phase 1 of the full body low impact plan, which has been huge for what I feel in my body and my movement overall. Not getting the right shoulder blade to pop up at all, which is huge. I'm actually feeling more balanced throughout my hips and my upper back. I even noticed, so I always have like right restriction when I rotate. And I notice when I'm doing like more of the mobility or the warm-ups before a strength workout, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can rotate so much more. So weird when you continue with things on a consistent basis, what you feel. And so I am always working. My right side is usually my most restricted side. And so I'm focusing on my rib cage breath on that side. I'm focusing on my overall shoulder blade movement, and I'm focusing on the down regulation response so that I can get that opening on that right side.
I kind of laugh too when people ask me about the restrictions I have in my body, because I jokingly kind of call myself just a catastrophe of compensation that I started to create ever since I started athletics and started lifting, and my movement patterns just really were not great. Mm-hmm. I have always had really high and rigid arches in my feet, and I've never done work on my feet. I've instead just put my feet in tighter and tighter shoes and went in and out of wearing orthotics, and again continuing to try and compensate for these high arches that I have, which has then kind of resulted up the chain in me having much more of an anterior pelvic tilt where I don't control my core pressures that well, and that has caused me to have inguinal hernias throughout life and have pelvic pain. Then going further up the chain, I'm kind of more rounded and have a lot more flexion and lack a little bit of extension in my thoracic spine, which then resulted in me not being able to get great overhead shoulder range of motion because I tend to lack that thoracic extension that helps with really good overhead range of motion. So throughout the entire chain, I'm kind of compensating at one section because of the next. And I'll say that probably in the last like 3-4 year journey of working on all of these things. And
since he's known me.
To your credit. Yes, coming back around to the core and coming back around to like great core activation through breath.
Working on your feet.
Working on my feet, getting in Vivos and wearing those consistently, even though like, no, my foot doesn't look that different and I can move my toes a little bit better. Like the difference I feel is amazing. And the way that it's opened up the flexibility in my normally rigid foot is great. And just being able to hold dynamic core stability when I do things like overhead presses or try getting in a handstand. Like it was ugly when I met you whenever I tried. It probably looked painful, but now I actually feel like I could control in different overhead positions and stuff like that.
I feel like I was honestly much better at this before I got pregnant because I moved around a lot more. I would lay on my stomach and work. I would sit at a computer. I would sit on the floor. I did put my body in a lot of different positions, which I think is the best part of being able to work at home. And we have that podcast on like 10 sitting variations that we recommend if you are having to sit at a computer at home specifically, because that's where you can access those 10 different positions. But this just goes back to looking at that bigger picture of how much are you moving overall throughout the day. Mm-hmm. We like to worry about getting the one workout in or the run or the CrossFit workout, but it's like, those are great, sure, but how much movement am I doing on a day-to-day basis? That's what's most important. How much sleep am I getting? How much nutrients and water and de-stress and overall movement. Just moving in your desk or chair, getting up and changing positions, walking, All of these things have a much greater impact on what you feel for those imbalances. And so going back, looking at a bigger picture, taking some time maybe today to think about that and to say, how can I start to break this up throughout my week moving forward? And then starting to work on imbalances. You can use Jen.health to help that, whether it's for strength for the full body low impact, or mobility with the full body mobility, or working on core pressures with the core plan. We have this available to help you in Jen.health, and it doesn't have to take much time. So I hope that you'll dive in a little bit deeper and then continue to look at that big picture.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode and listening all about how we think you should start to address those imbalances in your life. What did you think? Did you agree with anything? You disagree with anything? What kind of imbalances do you feel like you are dealing with? Comment below, and please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our incredible videos in the future.